Hello everyone, this is Jim Lucy, Editor-in-Chief for Electrical Wholesaling and Electrical Marketing with episode number 116 of today's Electrical Economy podcast series sponsored by Champion Fiberglass. Champion began producing epoxy fiberglass conduit fittings in 1988 and in 1990 developed the first conduit from epoxy resins that had flame resistance and low smoke characteristics. This met the most stringent codes and specifications. The latest population data is in from the U.S. Census Bureau. In this episode, we look at the metropolitan areas, counties, and smaller markets or micropolitan areas, as well as states that are seeing the biggest increases and decreases. We'll also be offering updates on several key weekly economic indicators to track. Initial unemployment claims at the state level, rail freight car traffic, the Baker Hughes rig count, oil prices, and copper prices. Our thanks again to the folks at Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring this podcast for more than 100 episodes over the past 4 years. For the week ending March the 15th, the advance figure for seasonally adjusted initial unemployment claims was 220,000. That's an increase from the previous week's revised level. The 4-week moving average for unemployment claims in the state was 227,000. That's an increase of 750 from the previous week's revised average. The U.S. unemployment rate in February was 4.1%, and that is up 0.1% over January. Only 2 states had initial unemployment claims of more than 1,000 for the week ending March the 15th. California had a decrease of 3,295, now sitting at 43,047, and Illinois had a decrease of 1,315, now sitting at 8,696. Only 3 states had increases in their initial unemployment claims of more than 1,000. Those states were Michigan, with an increase of 2,833, now sitting at 9,369. Mississippi up 1,702, now sitting at 2,595, and Texas up 1,333, now sitting at 19,118. One of the more interesting leading economic indicators for the overall economy is freight rail traffic. It measures the amount of raw materials and finished goods being shipped by rail. The best source for this data is the American Association of Railroads, or AAR. It publishes this data weekly. For the week ending March the 15th, total U.S. weekly rail traffic was 503,473 carloads and intermodals. That's up 6.2% compared with the same week last year. Total combined U.S. traffic for the first 11 weeks of 2025 was 5,306,497 carloads and intermodals. That is an increase of 4.1% compared to last year. Well, then, when you're looking at an increase overall, 4.1%, not really steady, but not spectacular. I think it is a pretty good indicator that despite all the talk right now, tariffs, all the concerns about different things in the stock market, all that, I think this particular indicator points that the underlying health of the U.S. economy really is still pretty decent right now. Things could change, but right now I think it's one of the indicators that point to things generally underlying when you get underneath all the talk and hysteria. Things are generally okay right now. And I think you have to kind of watch for those indicators, watch for all of the indicators, but this one is a good one just in general. It'll give you probably a real-world look at what's going on. Most of the key individual freight categories are showing steady, if not spectacular growth, and one of the largest and most important of them all, total intermodal units, is way up over last year, with an 8.4% increase over this time last year. Intermodal rail traffic is a really important indicator of the overall U.S. healthy economy because it counts all of the shipping containers that transport goods by rail and are eventually offloaded onto trucks to reach their final destination. When we're looking at some of the other key indicators, you'll see that farm products are up 3%, petroleum products up 2.3%. Total traffic, as we mentioned earlier, up 4.3%. On the down or red side of the ledger, you'll see that metallic ores and metals are down 7.5%. Motor vehicles and parts down 2.8% compared to this time last year, and non-metallic minerals down 2.5% year over year, and coal 2.8% down. If you track the oil market, you're probably familiar with the Baker Hughes rig count. This tracks the oil and gas rigs that are operating. The data is available by state, by basin, and nationally at www.rigcount.bakerhughes.com. This slide gives you an idea of the largest oil and gas deposits in the nation. It really gives you a good sense of just how many of the large oil plays are in Texas and Oklahoma and parts of New Mexico, and how big an area the Marcellus gas region covers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and parts of West Virginia. The Baker Hughes rig count showed no change in the most recent data at 592 oil and gas rigs. That's a 37 rig drop from last year at this time, and it's down 5.9%. New Mexico and the Permian Basin both showed weekly drops of 3 rigs. Oklahoma had another weekly increase, this time for 2 rigs. It's up roughly 16% for the year with up 7 rigs. Oil prices have taken a big hit over the past week or so, and they have now spent the last 18 days below $70 per barrel. That's mostly likely a result of the concerns over tariffs and the geopolitical concerns with Ukraine and Russia. The current price for WTI crude oil as of March the 24th is $68.83 per barrel. Economists like to call copper pricing Dr. Copper because it's a leading indicator for future economic activity. Copper is used in so many industries, with the construction industry being among the leading markets for it because of its use in wire and cable and copper plumbing pipe. Current price for copper as of March 21st is $5.10 per pound. That's getting close to record territory, and it appears this surge right now is being driven by the fear of tariffs. Copper futures on the COMEX have been as high as $5.15 over the past week, according to a report at www.euronews.com. One of the easiest ways to forecast the economic prospects of a local market area is to track the annual population growth data released each year by the U.S. Census Department. Big swings in population, either positively or negatively, can affect the housing market, specifically building permits and the amount of money spent on residential home improvements. It can affect the retail sales for sure. It can affect light commercial. It even affects the number of representatives the geographic area has in Congress. In the electrical market, it's real important too, because population growth may impact the distributors' decisions about where to set up a new location. A manufacturer might be deciding, use it to decide on what the sales goals might be for that particular area, or maybe might decide how to change representation depending on the amount of business coming through a particular area. When you're looking at any list of the data on the MSAs with the largest increases in residents over the past couple of years, you're going to start seeing some very familiar names. While the U.S. population on the whole grew at 2.6% since 2020 and going on to 2024, some of the fastest growing markets grew at triple that rate. Of the 10 metros with the largest population increases over the past 4 years, 5 of them are in Texas and 3 of them are in Florida. You look at on a list that we have, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas metro, up 8.8% over the past 4 years. The number of residents have increased over 600,000, specifically 676,438. Followed by Dallas, it's across the state neighbor. Houston, up 8.7%, up 626,454. Miami, actually, and we haven't seen Miami on this top 10 list for a bit, but they were up, not by Texas measures, but still up 5.3%, up 324,000. Phoenix, you often see Phoenix on any list of large population gainers on biggest gains in building permits. And up there here again, a large 6.4% increase over the past 4 years. Population up 311,000. Atlanta is coming back strong with a 4.7% increase, and also over 290,000 in the population increase. I think for a couple of years, Atlanta's population, they didn't quite always make the top 10 list, but I have noticed over the past year or two, they are back up on there. It's also the case with Orlando coming in with a 4-year increase of 9.7%, 259,920 new residents in the area. Austin, we all know about Austin and how big it's growing, but look at the population increase rate over the past 2 to 4 years, up 10.9%, 250,000 new residents, 388 to be exact. Another gigantic increase. Tampa, fast growing Florida Southwest coast there, 7.4% increased population-wise, 236,590. And Charlotte, also a big engine of growth in the Carolinas for sure. 8.1% increase, population increase, 215,000. And San Antonio, it doesn't grow as fast as Austin, Houston, or Dallas, but man, most states would probably love to see one of their metros growing this fast. Up 7.6%. The population increase over the past 4 years, up 194,071. When you drill down to the population data at the county level, the individual growth areas become even more distinct. 4 counties in the Houston and Dallas metros are seeing double-digit growth, as is one county in Florida's Lakeland metropolitan area reaching that level. Harris County is seeing the biggest when measured by total new residents over the past 4 years, up 270,919. Maricopa County, again, we reported them quite a bit. That's the biggest county in the Phoenix metropolitan area, 227,681. And when we see all the big numbers from Dallas, a lot of it is responsible by Collin County, up 16.6%, 179,000 increase. That's a gigantic increase. We mentioned it in the metro area level information, and about Miami-Dade County, up 5 points, smaller increase by percent, fairly large increase in total, 142,732 population change over the past 4 years. Another Dallas metro area county, Denton County, up 14.3%. I mean, look at these numbers in the Dallas specifically on the county level. Collin County up 16.6%, Denton County 14.3%, 130,610. Just gigantic numbers that you just don't really see anywhere else in the country. Going along with the gigantic numbers that you don't see anywhere else, look at some of these numbers in the Houston metro, up 15.6%. Over the past 4 years, 129,000 new residents. That's a pretty good size, small suburban town when you think of them in over 4 years. That's how many new people, and that's just in Fort Bend County alone. Also in Houston, 19.9%, 124,193. That's Montgomery County. So we've seen some just enormous growth in Houston and Dallas in particular. Clark County, Nevada, that's in the Las Vegas area. That is one of the largest counties in all of Nevada. Up 5.4%. It's one of the counties that was up over 100,000. It lagged in at 122,901. We mentioned Polk County, Florida. That's the Lakeland area, up 16.8%, up 122,699. And Hillsborough County, that Tampa market continues to grow very quickly. 7.8% increase over 4 years. Population increase 115,106. I also like to look at the U.S. Census data for smaller market areas called micropolitan areas. These markets have what the government defines as one urban cluster with a population between 10,000 and 50,000, plus adjacent counties with what they're saying are strong economic or social ties to that core area. I think these market areas are particularly important for distributors to watch in case they're looking for a fast-growing market area outside like perhaps a small city where they can set up a new branch. These market areas are typically in more rural areas, but some of them hit some of the same huge growth marks with double-digit growth. The top of the list, the latest census data is Seaford, Delaware, up 13.6%, 32,480 new residents. Jefferson, Georgia. This micropolitan area has hit some of these lists before. 22.3% increase, 17,000. Anderson Creek, North Carolina. That micropolitan area is up 9.3%, a change of 12,380. Another one that we've seen a fair amount is Kalispell, Montana. It's been on this list before. Over the past 4 years, it's up 9.2% as far as growth, 9,646. In Hawaii, and I apologize for if I mess up the pronunciation, Hilo, Kalua, Hawaii, and that's at 4.5%, up 9,000 new residents. As you can see, some of these these micropolitan areas, the numbers are not as large by number of residents, but they by percent increases are fairly large. And that's definitely the case at Cedar City, Utah, up 14.3%. The change was 8,225. Total population area is only 65,936. But when you're adding 8,000 people up there, you can see why it has a pretty major impact to everything going on in that area. Also, Cook County, Tennessee, up 5.8%. Had an increase of over 8,187. Population, one of our larger areas on the list, about 149,920. Clewiston, Florida, up 14.4%, 7,460 new folks in that area, but according to census data, 59,262 in population. Huntsville, Texas, 9.4% increase over the past 4 years, 7,159 new residents. And Granbury, Texas, that is 11.4% increase, over 7,070 new folks in that area. Now that we've seen the local market areas with the highest growth trends, I thought it would also be interesting to see how this data rolls up to the state level. Really very few surprises on the states with the largest growth, but you may be interested to learn some of the states that unfortunately have seen some rather population declines. At the top of our list, and no one's surprised, Texas at number 1, 7% population change. Again, U.S. total population percent, 2.6%. Florida saw, almost basically tripled that number, better, 8.2%, up took in over this area over 1.7 million new residents. That's pretty enormous. Texas at that same time over 2 million new residents in just the past 4 years. North Carolina, not the same type of growth as far as change, but still pretty good size when you're taking in 596,372 residents for a 5.7% increase. Also in the number 4, Georgia up 4.2%, to population increase, 447,909, and you can guess that quite a bit of that population increase is in the Atlanta metropolitan area. And we'll just go down to our top 5 here. Arizona up 5.5%, 395,249. You can guess that an awful lot of those folks have moved into the Phoenix area, specifically Maricopa County. Some in Tucson as well. It's also showing some growth, but not on the scale of its neighboring city to the north there. Also, a state to watch too, with some of the population growth on a smaller level, but with a 6.8% increase, 346,580 new residents in South Carolina. And when you look, as they say, there's all kinds of gaudy numbers for some states with the number of people moving in. But on the flip side, these folks are moving in from somewhere. And there's been some radical changes in for a couple of states here over the past 4 years. Take New York. The state it has the total population is still over 19,867,000. But you know what? It has lost over the past 4 years in population 237,923. That's a gigantic number of people leaving. By its standard with that many folks, it's only a 1.2% decrease, but that's still a big loss. Other states with some fairly sizable losses, California's population over the past 4 years down over 90,000. Illinois over the past 4 years down 88,930. Louisiana down 54,561, and the state of West Virginia down over 21,000 people. Many of the states with these population declines that we just discussed, you're going to find some local metros with some really jaw-dropping decreases in population over the past 4 years. Topping this looking at on a county level is Los Angeles County, obviously Los Angeles Metro in Southern California, down 2.4%, decrease of 239,455. That is so much more than any other specific county. The one that does get not even really close, but it's 3.6%. Maybe the percent change is not too far off, but by a change, and this is Kings County, New York, that is Brooklyn. Brooklyn at 98,824 lost population. Cook County, Illinois, down 84,455. In the Bronx County, down 74,599. Queens County, New York, down 72,972. We mentioned before about California losing residents, along with Southern California. You're seeing in San Francisco, 47,300. And Alameda County, 31,554. In many cases, and not to draw any political conclusions to this, but when you look at some of the states that are losing type of population, very often high tax type of states, and also affordability is very definitely an issue in some of these states as far as for housing. So going down our list a little further, Alameda County down 31,554, that's just across the bay in the Oakland, California area. Philadelphia down 26,872. Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, down over 22,000. We mentioned New Orleans before, down to the Orleans Parish, one of the core counties there, down 20,673. In St. Louis, down to over 20,000, 20,620. And the Portland, Oregon metro. This one kind of surprised me. I didn't realize that they were experiencing a population drop until I started checking out these numbers over the past year. But they are down 20,424 for a 2.5% decline. Well, this wraps up our podcast for today. Again, a special thanks to the folks from Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring our Today's Electrical Economy series over the past 4 years. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you with the population data in this podcast, but if you need a regular source of this type of population data, the Electrical Marketing Newsletter provides the latest Census Department data in a downloadable spreadsheet for only $99 subscription. Our next presentation will be on April the 7th. Until then, I hope if you're a college basketball fan, I hope you're doing okay with your brackets and it didn't go through too much turmoil over the past weekend. I'll look forward to talking with you in 2 weeks. Until then, be happy, be healthy. Let's chat in 2 weeks.